And you're not even aware of it because you're busy worrying about the guy driving the truck in tutu. So out of all the other 2 million bits, you're continuously building these frames unconsciously. And if you pay a little bit of attention, you begin to see what your typical stories are. Yeah? And you do it despite yourself. You see yourself doing it despite yourself. Yeah, I know I shouldn't interpret that ex-boyfriend as having said these things to attack my I'm not good enough, but I can't help it. Yeah? It's this thing I can't help. A typical frame we use is, and I use this still to this day, I've broken it a little bit, but an unconscious frame that's built up is, I'm a fat bastard. It's this lovely one-liner that encapsulates all this emotion around it. You're a fat bastard. Why? Because when I moved to Australia from Argentina, I was this high and round. I had a little bob cut. And I wore, and people couldn't say my name, Hector Marcel, so they used to call me Hector McJellybean, right? And I thought it was because they couldn't say Malacaria. So I thought, that's funny, Hector McJellybean, you know? Hector McJellybean. And then 6 years later, I'm driving after high school, past my primary school, and I see this short, fat, round kid in a blue school uniform, and I say to my best friend, look, doesn't he look like a blue jelly? And it hits me that that's me, and that they were calling me jelly bean because I was fat, not because they couldn't say Malacaria. And it's the first time I saw the power of that frame in me. I've been building up that frame. Every morning I go to the mirror, instead of saying, brushing my teeth and going, oh, today's going to be an awesome day, I'm building an unconscious frame of, I'm a fat bastard. Oh, look at that roll over there, oh, look at that one over there. Yeah, this unconscious language is building, these frames are building. They create our reality. Because it doesn't matter if someone says, hey, you look good in that today. I'm like, oh, they mean they saw the roll and they're trying to make me feel better. I can interpret that in infinite kind of number of ways. The words that people are saying to me are empty of having the intention that they mean land upon me realistically. And that's about all that I've got to learn from the Western point of view. It doesn't explain where those impulses originally come from. How come that dilemma stuck with me and it didn't stick with my sister? How come that schema stuck with him but it didn't hit me? And what I've got to integrate between this thinking and the Tibetan thinking is that they're saying the same thing. They're saying this is how you build karmas. You build these karmas in your mind that generate an experience that becomes so unconscious that it creates your world. So meditation is a dive deep into the DNA of what is the software of your mind. And the Tibetans have been doing it for a very long time. So understanding meditation is really a look and a slowing down of this process to see how it creates your reality and how you can impact it. And if you can dent one or two of these schemas, you can shift the way you perceive your world. Literally. Yeah.
Does this relate at all to like the idea of ignorance being talked about from ignorance? Like selective attention on a thing?
I haven't made that connection.
Okay.
No, I wanted to share with you what I learned in school, from which made sense to me about why I keep meditating. Because I know I get to address that. Sorry, did I get to answer your question? No? Okay. So the point here is that we have a witchcraft point of view from the Western world called psychology. Yeah. And we believe it. It's our science. We can measure it, we can test it, but it only lets us reach a certain level. It doesn't answer ultimate questions of why does this mind perceive that one word and turn it into a schema to start with, and why does that have its own energy? Tibetans have gone, oh, we get that, that's old news, that's like really raw, basic karma, but there's reasons for it, and you can manipulate it, and you can work with those things. But you can't do it while you're busy doing all the normal day stuff, because your brain, your conscious mind, is busy doing DP. You're distracted constantly. Yeah.
I'm just curious, do the schemas have to do with some scars, and like, are we born with those, like in past lives, and those create our karmas? Or do the karmas that we have, like more actions, especially let's say we take this path, we're more aware, and we create those new...
That's a big question, you know?
Schemas or some scars. Are they related?
That's the big question. And this is the way I think about it, okay? You put two human beings who are identical twins, and the reason I use identical twins is because you can say their genealogy is the same, yeah? And give them the same conditions, and they'll have different responses.
Does that happen when they have the same condition?
Well, the one argument is, and I don't want to get into it here because then we're going to start dividing, etc. But one of the Western arguments is that they don't have exactly the same condition, because me as an identical twin experienced my dad hitting my mother, right, from this perspective of the room, and that angle that my brother was having over there is a slightly different perspective. Therefore, you're going to have different results.
No, but it can be that one twin has a very profound experience and the other was not in the room.
No, I know. So
how can you measure that all the time?
You can't. Yeah, but you can only do it from, you can only know your own understanding by playing with these concepts. Yeah. So Tibetans will tell you that you come with a inertia from core behaviors and core schemas, if you like to use this language, from past lives, time without beginning. Yeah. The proof of that is that when you have your first impulse in the womb, it has to have come from somewhere. Your own conscious response, and they say consciousness comes from consciousness, and that's a completely different course, yeah? But that's the basic answer. What you could do in this experience that you're having right now, and the point of meditating and any of these kind of practices, it's not to be nice and happy and relaxed and, oh, okay, I feel okay going through a terrible experience through the world. We're going to get old, we're going to get sick, and we're going to die. Yeah? If we're going to do what the rest of the people here are doing. But if we think it stops there, then let's have a party. Don't sit down and meditate, boring. Yeah, let's drink up and have a big party. Let's really make it happen. If you really think you stop. And something's got to tell you that you don't stop. The light bulb goes out. Is there no electricity left? Yeah, I can't make that answer for you, by the way. And it takes a long time to come to a deeper understanding of whether or not consciousness stops. But if you don't think it stops, then the impulses that move forward beyond this body moving on, the mind of you, the thing that was called you before, and all the habituations that you created through this life must go somewhere. So the way I think about that for me is some bastard sent me this present. I don't know what he looked like. I don't know what the guy or the girl, the creature, the being that created the impulses that I have to live with now. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yeah? I'm like, I have no idea what kind of life they lead. I wasn't Cleopatra, like everybody's Cleopatra, right? So I would remember that. RuPaul's Drag Race. I was fierce. No. Sorry. Stay on track, Hector. Yeah. I do. I really think someone did stuff habitually, to force me to see the kind of things I see now. And some of them are terrible. And some of them are beautiful. So I lived that way for a little while. When I started reading these teachings, I thought, I do believe something else happens once you move on. Your consciousness, your spirit, your being, that essence of you moves forward. It has to. It's got all this inertia. What's it going to do to it? Stop? You know? So then you ask, where did it come from? Why did I interpret these signals this way? Why is it that inertia that I got? So I think of the non-Cleopatra thing that produced all the habits that are now second nature to me and that I've had as tools to work with. But more importantly and recently, and because of the bodhicitta teachings, I think, forget me, this ugly thing that's going. What's the next person that's going to get these impulses? What am I giving them? What are you creating in the 1.9 something million bits of data every second that are opportunities, are total opportunities to create a paradise for someone? You don't know their face. You don't know what their brothers look like, what their mothers look like. And so I think now, as much as I can remember, may every action that I do of mind and speech and body deliver them the impulses that give them a fruition and a hope and a realization that they can turn this thing into paradise. Not in a la-di-da way, in a very real way. So something that came back to me recently, I had a special thing happen to me when I was 18, and it was like I'd taken too many drugs, yeah, and then I thought, we're not taking drugs anymore. You know, it was high school, we're supposed to finish the exams, so we better stop doing the drugs. And I was with my best friend, and then I had this weekend where special things occurred in my mind. I had a beautiful idea of things I had I didn't know about. You know, I grew up Catholic. And then this very clear story for a film came into my mind. And it was about past lives, and it was about 4 people living through 4 periods of life. But it explained so many things that later on I came to recognize as these teachings. I knew it was special when it occurred, and I thought, well, who planted that? Who gave that to me? Where did it come from? And I tried for years to figure out. It wasn't the priest, and it wasn't my dad helped. So what I'm saying is, there is an importance to meditating. There is no experience you are having that is not in your mind. There is nothing that you are experiencing that is not being experienced through your mind. Zero. Think of one thing that's not being processed through your mind. As soon as you thought it, it's in your mind. And yet we don't give it time, we don't give it space, we don't give it the attention to say, let's figure out that mechanism for me. And the only way you can do it is slow it down, because the DP is going, the reticular activating system is going. Stimulate all the way along. So give your body, give your mind 15 minutes a day to meditate. This whole story is a pitch to meditate. If I can give you anything, is meditate. I'm not giving you any other higher wisdom or anything. I'm saying to you, as logically as I can put it, meditate. We're in a meditation course, so I'm supposed to tell you to meditate. Yeah? But really meditate. A couple of things will happen. A, you'll get some insight. You'll get to see aspects of you that you thought you knew. B, you'll see some limitations. They're good. You want to work with them. If you don't see them, you're blind to them. Bad. You don't want them blind, growing on their own accord. Impulses, habits, and so on. Meditate. Get to know who you are. And when you get more subtle, when you get practice, the habit, the physical habit of sitting down, withdrawing the senses, and entering that thing that perceives everything, there is no other medicine. to this crazy world. You see things in a very different way if you've built a habit. And then you have the inertia and the impulse. You know who you are. You can see it, like licking that ice cream, and then you remember that taste. Not only that, it's the only way that you can have a communion, a union, a realization, an experience of the code that is underneath, the fabric that is underneath all our experience physically. That, and we in Tibetan Buddhism call it seeing emptiness directly. Seeing the ultimate nature of everything that's relative to us. Yeah?
I have a question.
I love people that say that when they ask the question. My brother calls me up and he goes, listen. I'm like, what else am I going to do?
Listen.
Listen.
No, I have been trying to like do the preliminaries this week and present ingredients, like following the things. But I find myself telling me, okay, so like I clean my room now, I'm in the often part, and this is like what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm following the steps and like oh my and then I space out and I go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like see myself and see like, for example, the confession, that's like the biggest one, right? I space out and like think about my whole life and then come back and but so like I don't really know if it's okay to have that discursive mind that is like you're in this step and then you go to the legs and then you're like
that's good. Okay, good. Yeah. So okay. You have to be aware of what you're doing before you start getting a habit of being unaware about what you're doing. So it's like driving a car. Yeah, I've probably used this analogy with you guys before. So I'm a 10-year-old kid. In Argentina, a car, only rich people had cars. I think I got to sit in a car once. But as a 10-year-old, I knew how to drive a car. You sit there and you do that. Yeah, that's all I saw. That's all I believed. Yeah, and so there's 4 stages of learning, and this is just Western ideas. Yeah, but they make sense, and they're applying to here as well. And you are unaware that you are unaware. You don't know what you don't know. I didn't know how to drive as a 10-year-old. I saw people doing that, and I thought I could do it. I didn't know I didn't know. Yeah, I was unconsciously unconscious. Yeah, so that every learning begins with that. You don't know you're an alcoholic. Yeah, you don't know. And then there's this beautiful spark, this beautiful realization when, as a 15-year-old kid, I sit behind the wheel of a car and I stall it because I didn't even figure out there's tires, this thing looks big, I can't see the road. My mind, my dippy is going off, yeah? I know I don't know. Inside my chest, I know I don't know. I am consciously unconscious about my state. So you go from meditating, okay, I go do the 7 steps, yeah, I didn't even know how to do all these things, yeah? And all of a sudden you know. And you go from not knowing that you don't know to knowing that you don't know, which is why you're practicing, which leads you to the next step, which is knowing that you know. You know that you've got to do the 7 steps, and so you consciously, your awareness is doing the activity, the 7 steps. I'm watching myself doing the 7 steps. I'm lost, yeah, you're in that consciously conscious. So, when you're driving and you're holding dearly to the thing, you just learn to drive and you're making sure you don't hit that car and you don't hit that car and that line is getting too close and you're so aware, yeah? That's the stage you're talking about.
Yeah.
But you do that enough times, you create that, let's use the Western point of view, you create the grooves, yeah, of the electrical signals enough times, you make the neuron connections happen enough times, you make that little channel into a river, and then you go from knowing that you know, consciously conscious or consciously competent, to unconsciously competent. It's second nature. It's become a schemer, a positive scheme. It's become a self-perpetuating thing that you do unknowingly. And how do you know that? Because you got home from your best friend's place, driving the car, and you forgot how many lights you went past. Yeah, I can't remember if they were green or not, but I must have gotten here. If you've ever had that experience where you just did an activity so seamlessly that you weren't aware of it, it's because you've created such a habit. The same thing happens in meditation. Some of them can be bad though. Yeah, if you're not planting the right focuses at the beginning. So I hope that answers. We haven't even started class. Let's start class. Can we start class? Who did the water bowls, by the way? How did that feel?
I've been doing the water bowls for a while, unconsciously. And everything changed this week with that practice, how you taught it last week, and so sweet, and I got so excited to get out of bed and sit down on the
Beautiful.
kitchen. And then, so I had water bowls, and I moved out of my apartment for a while, and I packed with someone, I couldn't find them, I was freaking out. Oh, Hector had the roses, oh, how roses, how can I do? So I had seashells. So for the first 3 days it was seashells, and then I tore the house apart and found the water bowl.
Wow, awesome, very nice. Yeah. Okay, is someone drinking the water?
The plant.
The plant, good, besides the plant. See the sweetness with which you describe the seashells? That's a special karma. That's charged up. That's creating grooves. Yeah? Your whole awareness is there. If you did do it, it's not about the bowls. It's about that thing being turned on. And when you have the turn on and that awareness, and it becomes second nature, then you're practicing. Yeah? And they agree. So for those of you who have not been here before, here's the quick summary, class 1, okay? What are the 5 areas that will cover around meditation, so you don't have heightened expectations of me teaching you meditation today?
Prepare your mind.
The 5 areas that we're going to cover in the meditation course.
Yeah, knowing the prerequisite.
No, preparing was correct, I was just testing. Yep, good. Next.
Environment.
Good. 6 conditions for the environment. So the first thing is you've got to do a lot of things to prepare, both for you and the place. The next part is posture, so the environment. Then posture, so how you sit. And posture also includes inner posture, okay? And we'll cover that. And then mental processes. That's it. There were 5.
Choosing the object.
No, that's it. There were 4.
They're fun.
Good. So what are the 6 preliminaries? This is class 2.
Not the ingredients.
Sorry? Clean up. Yeah. Okay. Something that someone highlighted to me last time. Remember the guy Billy at the back there who said, "Oh, was there something else in the cleanup that you guys are teaching? Do you all pay attention to that question?" It was pointed. Yeah, he wanted, and he was right. There is something else. I missed it. You don't just clean up your room. Brush your teeth. Clean your tongue, gargle, wash your face, be clean. Yeah, you're about to go meet the Dalai Lama. Don't be smelly and hungover. Yeah? Have messy hair, comb your hair. You don't have to go to extremes. It's about the attitude that you come and meet these things with. Yeah? So again, you're creating. Look at it from the voodoo we believe in the West, okay? Because it will stick. You are creating mental frames that will force your experience of something in the future. So the more you trick your mind, and the more you do it consciously, the more it will become a schemer that will present the world in that way. So then you don't experience people calling you Hector and Jelly Bean as a negative thing. You look at it as a positive thing. So you clean up the place, you clean up yourself, you clean up the place. What's the next part? Make offerings. Okay, so we talked about the 6 water bowls, or is it 7? 7. Thank you. Good. And that's there. If you need them, very good. And there are layers of meaning. For those of you who have a practice, you can just add layer upon layer, and you can probably go infinitely, yeah, into the kind of layers that you do. For each water particle, you could do 1,000 things. But the point here is your mind is creating a reality, so you have to force yourself to go to that next layer. Yeah. How do you get that inspiration? You learn from other people, yeah, and each other. The next one.
Posture.
Yeah, it's called the seat, remember? So you take your seat. But this is what confused me the first time I took this course. I'm like, okay, so I've got to clean up my mouth and I've got to clean up the room, yeah? And then I've got to make these offerings, and there's this whole process for that. And then I've got to sit down, but hold on, I've got to prostrate, yeah? So you don't. The linear step is you wake up. The intention is first, obviously. Your mental intention creates your physical actions. Yeah, maybe you go brush your teeth, maybe, I don't know, whichever of those two you want to do, whether it's clean up and then brush your teeth, but you clean up, tidy up. You're about to enter a guest. A guest is about to come. What's the guest? It's infinite wisdom and compassion, produced by what? Your mind. Right? So it's not like a ghost is coming. You know, but you've got to be able to create your mind's, focus your mind's power, so viscerally you feel it, you believe it. That will cause something. That will cause you to meet a real being that way, that really teaches you, that really does those things, and they'll look nothing like you planned it. Not true. Uncannily like all the things you do. So then the seat is, before you sit down, you've made the offerings, you either lit your candles or whatever it is that you do, and before you sit down you do 3 prostrations. Yeah? Do you remember the prostrations? I taught that. Not in this class. No? Where did I teach it?
Bells and whistles.
Sorry?
Bells and whistles.
Bells and whistles. Okay, so the crown, your mouth, your heart. Yeah? What do they symbolize? Who was at the bells and whistles?
Perfection of body, speech, and mind.
Beautiful. Perfection of body, speech, and mind. And why do you do it 3 times? Yeah, to the teacher, to the teachings, and to those who study it. All the 3 jewels. Excellent. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Okay, so then you sit down.
Prana is the body.
Body, speech, and mind.
Right? Prana is the body, speech, mind.
Your whole thing. Yeah. Oh, and also don't offer nothing. Put a little jewel in there. Yeah. Like, so make sure it's got like a wish-fulfilling jewel from the land of Koplop. I think that's a literal translation of Zombu land? Yeah, Zombu, which is in the cosmology of Tibetan Buddhist world. This 4 continents, the eastern continent is Zombu. Yeah, has a massive tree hanging out of it, and from it come wish-fulfilling jewels that drop into the ocean and make this sound. Zombu. Zombu. So the translation would be Koplop.
What's the sweeping of the hands back?
Ah, good. No, some people don't do it like that. Good. You come down, and so the idea is that something happens to your mind after you die. Yeah? So what's going to happen? Like I said last class, there's many iterations of being human. Some humans here are happier than other humans here. And then if you've been to any other country, these humans here, as complaining as we are in our Manhattan heaven, you know, there are other people who can't have cold showers. They can't have showers. Can't drink clean water. Can't find food. People being hunted. Literally. Yeah? Babies being killed. Right now. Right now. Not like in some idea. Right now on the planet. So why did you land this world and they land that world? There are many worlds that a human can come into. If the mind comes from somewhere, if it continues, why did those minds land there? And why did your minds land here? Very fortunate. Don't waste it. So that's just humans. think of the carcasses of animals being strung up and cut open so we could eat. Think of the volume of those, and don't be scared to think about it. Look at it as truth. Here is a creature who's just had a cow baby, wants to feed it. The baby wants to be fed. It's called veal. For us, for the mother, it's not called veal. That's a different way of living. Yeah, that's a consciousness. And then, if those two possibilities are true, and all the realm of those, don't be afraid to think that there could be more torturous, revolting, they call them the hell realms. And there could be more blissful and beautiful, they call them the demigod realms. But it's all caught up in what we call samsara. So there's a study of that and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't stop here. What you got, you're lucky, really. I know we say it a lot, but really. Even in all our misery, oh, I haven't got a boyfriend, oh, I can't do this, oh, I can't do that. You know? So there are many ways of being, and just within the human space, which compared to the number of animals and insects on the planet, we're tiny. The 7 billion human creatures crawling here, add the fish and the birds and the flies and the fleas and we're just tiny specks compared to the number of other possibilities. Forgot your question. I didn't. So the reason you come down slowly, yeah, is to remember the good fortune that you have to not only be human, but to have the awareness, the appreciation that you have this valuable thing, this and this, yeah? So be extremely grateful, and a wish not to be reborn in the hell realms or lower realms of existence. And so someone told me once that if when I come up I can scoop some people from the lower realms and save them, that's why you come up quickly, and then none of the evil doers are watching. You know, so you think you come up quickly, you go down slowly with appreciation of what you have, you come up quickly, hope you don't end up there, and maybe you help some people. Yeah. Another practice, if you want to do that, another practice of doing that is as you're pounding the pavement in Manhattan and your feet are touching the concrete, imagine that the other realms of existence that aren't terribly happy are shaking because of the power of your understanding, and that through that shaking some people get to come up because everyone's distracted and they need to save a few. That's a good way. It's just habituating your mind. Yeah, you haven't started class yet.
Does that all refer to Gompa as far as like the things we've been talking about, burning the neural pathways and the habituation, as far as
just the idea of meditation? You're saying just the general word.
Just that that specific definition that we apply.
You know, it's funny because all those words we did in class 1, you can almost interchange all of them. Gompa, you have Shine while you're talking about Gompa, you know. Shamatha is just an aspect of what's
Samadhi.
Yeah, Samadhi. So
right. Okay. Right on.
When you get there, call it the hell you want. Yeah? That's just my take on it. Yeah.
Number 4.
Sorry?
Number 4, the preliminaries.
Thank you. Number 4 are the preliminaries. So the practice goes, you've cleaned your teeth, you've cleaned your room, you've made your offerings, you've done your 3 prostrations, imagining that they're really coming. Yeah, you've got to trick your mind to create those grooves. Then you take your seat. Yeah, we'll talk the posture at length. And then part of taking your seat has 2 other components, remember? The first one is going for refuge, and the other one's generating bodhicitta. And we've just done that. We've done it today in the meditation. We've just done it now, talking about realizing that A, this world is some suffering. That should propel you to figure out where am I going to get free of that suffering. So there's a fear involved and then a hope that something can help you. So we just did some refuge by thinking, well, these teachings can help us. Understanding this, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. If you want to call it Western witchcraft or Eastern witchcraft, or you want to call it enlightened Tibetan Buddhist philosophy or psychology, I don't care. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's what you believe. It can help you, that you've taken refuge. Yeah? So the higher you can elevate your understanding of refuge, what really can help you, then you're doing the practice. And they're saying, you do these steps and the hardware will turn on. You do this to the software and then you're no longer playing Windows 98. You get the new Mac operating system. It's saying you're going to move from your clunky computer to your handheld device. So then you think you've just got some fortune about your understanding. You took some refuge. You go to refuge, to the Buddha Dharma Sangha. The prayers do that for you. You don't even have to think about it. Yeah? The prayers do that for you. And then you think, well, I'm not the only one here. Yeah, there is a bunch of people who are also desperately looking to get out of the suffering that they experience day to day. I wish I could help them. Yeah, I wish if I figured this out really, what if I just figured 5% of it out? That could help a bunch of people. Really feel that feeling, that understanding and that feeling is generating the reality of your heart. Yeah. So you've cleaned your teeth, cleaned the room, made the offerings, took prostrations, took your seat, generated refuge and bodhicitta. All this is done with this, yeah, so far. So this is how really it goes down every morning, yeah. And then visualize that merit field, which is what? Inviting that essence of the highest thing you can imagine. And the highest thing you can imagine does not mean the highest idea that me or some text tells you to imagine. It's got to be the highest one that you really feel. And for me, like I said, when I first met these teachings, you have to be honest here. Because not being honest with yourself is also a karma that will create a groove that will create your reality. Be clear about it. So for me, it was Joseph Campbell. Small dude. Yeah? Who knows a lot of stuff? Joseph Campbell. He was able to explain to me the underpinning stories and mythologies that humanity told to transcend our suffering. Wow. That was important for me. Yeah? And then over time, understanding and valuing that created in my experience a holy Geshe Michael Roach, a real person that I can't help but think he has had this thing directly in his DNA. Wow. And then beyond that, practicing towards a being that you see as perfected, as close as you can get to it, but really, whether it's your mum, I mean, your mother is the most exquisite creature on the planet, regardless what you think they've done right or wrong or whatever. I know in the West we tend to think that way. But imagine paying your mother to look after your tiny body as soon as it's born, to make sure it stays alive. Imagine that you had to pay your mother an hourly rate for every moment of mind she had to think about feeding you, clothing you, pooing you, unpooing you, keeping you away from... Yeah? And that's just the first 6 years of your life. Hourly rate. Overtime after 8 hours. Yeah? Triple time on Sundays. Yeah?
24 hours.
24 hours. 24 hours a day. No, seriously. Everyone has a mother. Yeah? Imagine. If that doesn't give you gratefulness, call your mum in the break. Let's have a break. Yeah? And then no, let's do one more thing. So then you imagine a merit field, meaning you imagine a creature or creatures, beings that have helped you, the heightened ones, the ones that really turn you on, and ask them, please come and teach me some more. In my 15 minutes here, in my private time to create a future, please help me. And then you say, well, before we engage in that, let me purify any obstacles that I've got that are negative. There's the confessional side that we did in our meditation. Let's clean that from our mind. I want to not do those things anymore. And you're right to not want to do them. And you can stop doing them. But you can't stop doing them if you ignore them. You have to look at them. And then you go, well, hold on, but I'm also doing beautiful things. Let me make more of them come up. Oh wow, I'm not the only one doing beautiful things. How much joy is there in the world now? You've got to spend time there. Yeah? And you're doing that in front and with that creature. The one that teaches you. And then you meditate. See how your mind is like a fertile ground for whatever you put in it then. It is charged up. It's not like, let me get a cup of coffee quickly, sit down. It's charged up. You do that enough times, and it's hard at the beginning to get the mechanics, to get comfortable, to get unconsciously competent. Yeah? But once you get there, oh my God, you can't wait to get up in the morning and sit on that seat and ask them to come and meet them. And when you do, you think beautiful things happen. I hope you meet them. Let's take a break and then I'll start the class. Let's be back. Let's say a 1:15, and I promise we'll do 15 minutes of class.
We're going to have the homeworks and quizzes out on the table. So you can just kind of go through.
And congratulations, everybody. You're doing really well
Everyone's great.
with your homeworks and quizzes. It's beautiful, and it's worth the while. For your 2 hours here, do 15 minutes out of here. It's totally worthwhile. Thank you. Yes. Take a break. Go away. Call your mum. Call my mum. Oh, it's so nice.
And if you have homework for this week,
Well, no problem. I'm leaving. No, I leave on Sunday. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I'm good.
So in psychology, when you think about archetypes and things like that, would that also, like the frames also come into kind of like a filter of how we would, friend, teacher,
That's interesting.
kind of just a grouping of scenes.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So archetypes. So then what Jung was saying is that there are archetypes that are particular to humans, yeah, that keep coming up regardless of culture and anything. So I'd say that that's what they're representing. That the rest of the 2 million bits that are coming in, the ones that we can't be aware of, we're unconscious of, they are forming a grouping in a specific way related to a human perspective. They must. Yeah? Animals are doing the same, by the way. We just can't tell what they're labeling, but you could guess by their behavior.
Sure. Yeah, predator, prey, blah, blah, blah.